And we back just like that. Just like that. We back. What's good, everybody? Welcome, 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 welcome in. All right. This is J Cal. This is the Clout Report. This is the regroup presented by the Clout Report. Today is Thursday, August 27th. This week is flying by, though, right? That's the crazy thing. That's the craziest part of this. Is it just me or am I tripping? All right. So Tupac is over. The trial, the trial part anyway. I mean, all the witnesses have spoken, and we've gotten absolutely nowhere. But I'm happy that it's over and we can finally move forward. Jeez. After all that, we can finally move forward. Hallelujah. So prosecution had 25 witnesses in total. In 8 days, we went through 25 witnesses from the prosecution. And the defense had 3 witnesses. And it only took a few hours. 9 days of testimony in total. And Duane, Keffe D, Davis didn't testify. Well, that's kind of a risky play. That sometimes backfires. You have to, well, we see it sometime when people have nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing, where they already know. This didn't go right. This didn't go well. I might as well take a shot, because either way, it's looking like curtains for me. So the defendant testifying is like, you decide, well, I'm gonna bet the house on whatever, like on the Russian roulette or something. That's not something you normally do. I mean, I'm not a gambler like that, but I don't believe that's something that you would do in like Russian roulette. But if you are down and you feel like that's your only way to rebound, maybe you take a shot. So anyway, he didn't do that, and I think that's for good reason that he didn't do that, because I think that would have just kind of sealed the deal for him. Which, I would say that things are probably leaning against him, probably. But this is the thing. When you have so many possibilities and these theories floating around, I think it shows that you don't have a clear idea of what happened. When I say that, things were pretty clear when this thing started. Like, what happened, who did it, who was behind it. And as the trial progressed, it seems like things got more and more blurry. I don't know if you all felt the same way. It seemed like it was clear cut. It was a fight in a casino. And then somewhere out of left field, here's Diddy. What's Diddy doing here? If you already have a motive and you already have everything pretty much lined up, and it makes sense. It's plausible, like everything. Okay, this happened, then that happened, this happened. Okay, well, that sounds really reasonable. These are gang members, and you beat one of them up, and you turn around and shot you, huh? Well, that can happen. That can happen. You know, I don't think I have to see it like movies to understand how that would work. You know, if I got into it with some street guy, you know, while I'm out and about, I better be worried about that. Especially, you know, they got the best of them, beat them up and kicking them and all this type of thing. Yeah, I don't know how that got narrowed down to Tupac, but you know, Tupac was kicking like everybody else. You know, it was so many people. How they get to Tupac? That's my question. Why me? That's what I would be saying if I was Tupac. Why me? Pop, why me? Why me? Everybody was beating them, everybody kicking them. Why are you shooting me? I don't know. That's the real question that never got answered for me. That was the that's what I wanted to know. Why Tupac? Like you see all them feet, you see all them feet touching that dude. Why the Tupac was the only one? I don't know if he was the only one, but as far as this case is concerned, Tupac was the only one that they cared about. So anyway, that's me just being, I don't know, being weird, I guess. Anyway, this whole trial in one sentence is in uh I think I have more questions than answers at this point, which I should have more answers than questions because everything is over. You know, they brought in all these people and they really didn't move the needle really one way or the other. They really just kind of solidified what we had already. And what we had already wasn't much. You know, it's 30 years ago, so I really wasn't expecting fireworks, but you never know. You know, this is the other thing that can happen. 30 years later, somebody can really reveal something because, hey, I lived my life. Hey, this is the truth. Yeah, well, hey, that can happen 30 years later. You know, in that Emmett Till, which is completely different kind of case, but the lady said that she made it up. The alleged lady who said she was whistled at or whatever the case, she admitted it on her. I guess it wasn't a case, but she before she passed away, she admitted that that wasn't the case. Which I don't know what you do with it so much later, but I mean, stranger things have happened. And if someone did that in this case, it would not be that much of a shock this much later that someone said, look, man, I lived through it and I've been holding on to this secret for 30 years. I'm old now. Here, this is what really took place. Oh my God. So anyway, we're gonna get into the trial a little bit. We're gonna talk about some Lil Durk, and we're gonna talk about Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa. So let's see here. Okay, that part. Let's jump to this. Okay.
cream-colored Cadillac in Tupac's entourage the night that he was shot. We had two separate officers that took the stand for Keffe D's defense that both claimed the night that Tupac was unalive, there was a cream-colored Cadillac in the full entourage of people that rode with Tupac. I am telling you right now, the jurors are really remembering this because one of the questions that they asked the next witness that had nothing to do with these reports. That next witness that took the stand and was testifying was a Las Vegas detective. And he was given the Tupac file by other other detectives that were working the case, and he's also the one that conducted that interview with Keffe D in 2009, which would have been the interview that Keffe D did right after he did the proffer with Greg Kading in 2008. He testified that he tried to corroborate information that he got from Keffe D in this interview, such as Orlando Anderson being beat up, and he said that Orlando Anderson went to a hospital. He said that he subpoenaed records at this hospital, but you have to remember it was 2009 when he was doing this, and this happened in 1996, but he found absolutely nothing of Orlando Anderson being at this hospital. He also said that he tried to corroborate the white Cadillac that Keffe D was telling him about. He tried to locate a possible paper trail but found nothing. He said when he went looking for this paper trail, he wasn't sure at all that he was going to find it because Keffe D said that the person that got this was a friend of the Southside Crips. They asked this detective that when he sat down and did his interview with Keffe D in 2009, was he aware of the 2008 proffer that Keffe D did with Greg Kading? And he testified at the time of the interview that he did with Keffe D, he did not know about it, but he did hear about it after. He testified before the 2009 interview that he did with Keffe D. He thought that Keffe D was already in the car before Keffe D told him he was in the car. This part was interesting. He said after this 2009 interview that he actually planned to arrest Keffe D and charge him with the murder of Tupac. He claimed when he turned all of this in that the DA told him.
That sounds real good after the fact, don't it? Yeah, I was gonna take him in then, but I didn't. Why not? In 2009, after he said everything, you're gonna take him in. Why didn't you do it? Never mind. I digress.
Him to step down, that they were not going forward with charges. Detective also testified that there was no physical evidence of Keffe D being in Vegas except his own words and the details that he gave them. Basically was testifying that some of the specific details that he gave them lined up to information that they knew or had in these files about Tupac's case. Keffe D's defense was really harping on the fact that a lot of people called during this time telling this detective that they also killed Tupac. Then the defense ended on this question. Was info that Keffe D gave you already out there publicly? And he did not know the answer to this and said that he would say that there probably was. And then the prosecutors came back and said original detectives corroborated a lot of things from that file, correct? And he said correct. Now we're going to come to the juror questions, and it's going to come back to that cream-colored Cadillac that the two Los Angeles Police Department officers were saying that they saw the night that Tupac was unalived.
If this jury is really fair and impartial, he'll likely beat this case. I mean, because prosecution did a terrible job. I mean, profoundly terrible. I'm not even a juror, and they made me more confused than I thought I knew what I knew. And they brought in all these people that scrambled me up. Now I don't know what's going on. Thought I knew.
In the entourage with Tupac, the jurors asked this Las Vegas detective, did he interview Suge Knight? And he said he tried, but it never happened. And the jurors asked him, were you able to interview everyone in the cream or white Cadillac? By the juror referring to it as a cream or white Cadillac, that means that the last testimony about allegedly a cream Cadillac being in Tupac's entourage the night that he was shot is still on their mind. But the detective testified no, that he was not able to corroborate it because each one of them died. And one of the jurors asked, can you confirm that Keffe D was in the Cadillac? And this detective testified by Keffe D's words telling him he was in the Cadillac. And then the defense comes back up and said no actual facts except Keffe D's words, right? And he said correct. Then the defense rested their case. Keffe D did not end up taking the stand. Now we are going to have their closing arguments on Monday, and then the jury is going to start deliberating. So let me know in the comments, do you guys think that Keffe D is going to be found innocent or guilty? It is.
So he should be found innocent. You know, stranger things have happened when people get in the jury box, or when they deliberate. But this prosecution is for one, this seems like a Hail Mary from the beginning. How are you gonna bring somebody? How do you charge somebody from 30 years ago based only on what they said. That's it. That's all they have. And they're hoping that that's enough. Is that enough to get you beyond a reasonable doubt? Chat, anybody? Is that enough for you? Just because they said that 30 years ago? I mean, it's likely that is the case, but they did a horrible job with it. I'm no lawyer. Let me preface my statements with that. I am no lawyer, but just maybe these legal teams need to have like a regular person in the team, non-lawyer, just like a regular Joe Schmo that is doesn't think maybe so critically, just kind of surface level. They can say, hey, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but you all are getting way too confusing with all of this. I don't know, just a thought, because they had a clear story and everything just got more and more blurry. Like now it's two cream Cadillacs. See how that works? It was one that shot him. Now, by the end of it, now you got two. One of them rode with him. Now we got to look at Tupac's crew. If this doesn't work out, see how that works? This is ridiculous. If they blow this in front of everybody, I mean, nothing's gonna happen, but so this man sat down for a documentary and interviews, talking about it on camera, and he talked to federal agents in 2008 and talked for hours, couldn't shut him up. The man they were arrested in 2023, and the officers asked him what they got for him. And they thought, anyway, the biggest case in Las Vegas history. Well, I don't know. This could not work out. This can blow up in everybody's face. And I'm not looking for that at all by any chance. I'm looking for justice, whatever that is. Whatever that is. If he did it, he deserves it. Anybody agree with that? If he didn't do it, then he didn't. But I don't understand how you bring a case where all you have is testimony after all this damn time. Why? Why you need this guy so bad? What is what is he, 60 some odd years old now? What is he a threat to at this point in his life? He's barely hanging on health-wise, it seems like. Either way, it seems like a huge swing for notoriety to say we finally got well, we already know the actual trigger man is no longer with us, so it's like he's the mastermind. Do they believe he's been masterminding more of these events since then? Do they believe that that's what he does? This guy wasn't some type of hitman. He was a drug dealer. Is he maybe selling drugs that we should know about? Is he peddling drugs through the community? No. Why? What do they have about what he's done in the last, say, 20 years? Has he done anything in the last 20 years? They said he was working for the FBI or something. He was a informant. Is he worth more doing that? I guess now he can't be. His cover's blown now. But I don't understand. Did they bring him to trial because he couldn't produce anything as an informant? He was a terrible informant. This makes me wonder. And the state built an entire case just off his own testimony, his book, his interviews, his proffer agreement, and they barely needed their own words, but it seemed like the stuff they did do really kind of set everything back. Which, how can you make things worse? How do you do that? Maybe it's a good thing they didn't have it, or feel like they didn't need much, because the things that they did do did not bring clarity. You want to bring clarity. You want to present that you know what happened and make it crystal clear. Crystal clear. It shouldn't be questions. And he never seemed like an honest guy. Even all the people that they brought up, it was always he was a shady guy. He was doing one thing or another. So always something probably he shouldn't have been doing. Fluffy. He's hanging with some drug dealers in New York. He's in some mess in LA. He was always saying and doing things he shouldn't be doing. And I'm not saying he wasn't there that night. I'm pretty sure he was there that night, because that was his badge of honor, seemed like. And maybe that's why they told, these hardened gang members couldn't wait to tell everybody what happened. They probably told before they got to the California border, leaving Vegas. Everybody in Compton probably knew who shot Tupac that night before they got to California. And that's pretty fast for a car full of hardened gang members that don't snitch. They never snitch. Well, how we know? How did we know? How did we know? You got all these gang members, but nobody snitches. We know that. So let's see. Prosecution rested, defense rested. So what do we have left? What is left? What do we have left in this case? There's closing arguments. Closing arguments are coming up. Closing arguments are next. But okay. So as a witness for former Metro officer Sam Hype, he was working overtime that night. Sorry. And a lot of officers were at that time, because the whole city was full of people. Mike Tyson fight. I guess the equivalent would be like a Floyd Mayweather fight for my youngsters that don't understand what Mike Tyson fight means. Think of like a Floyd Mayweather fight. It's like that. And apparently his assignment was Suge Knight's residence. He's supposed to, I guess, stand guard. Maybe he's working. Was he on duty doing that? Anyway, he testified that an entourage of 15 cars through that gate he saw. And the last car through was Suge's. And Suge's car was a cream-colored, drumroll, Cadillac. What does that mean? That was Suge's car that pulled up? Maybe we got the wrong guys. They just happen to have the same car, and like, that was us. Oh man, whose witness was that? That was a defense witness. He said it was a cream can. Said Suge was in the cream can. Now I thought all this time I thought Suge was in the BMW. They say they have a cream Cadillac in the entourage. What do you do? He said in open court. How do you convict this man? And clearly he's not a good dude. He's not a nice guy. He's not a good dude. He's a bad dude. I mean, according to his history, allegedly, right? But Suge has just happened to now that never was known until now. If there's a bombshell in this, that's it. That's it. That's your bombshell right there. There was 2 cream Cadillacs. What you supposed to do with that? Then the defense asked him if he noticed any damage or bullet holes on the car coming through the gate, especially the white cream Cadillac. Because the car everybody's been talking about for the past 30 years, the car that pulled up next to the BMW at the light, open fire, was a white or cream Cadillac. Good old Cadillac. American luxury. Then the defense just put a witness on the stand saying there was a cream colored Cadillac rolling into Suge Knight's own driveway that night. Wow. Imagine that. All this time. Who knew? Who knew? Now, I'm not saying, y'all, what that means. I don't know what it means exactly. That's for 12 people in that box to determine exactly what that means. What I'm saying, I'm sure that makes it more difficult to believe how can you believe that but beyond a shadow of a doubt? Because that's supposed to be the threshold. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Nah, we know. You know off of what? You know from the testimony of a historic liar. You know from the prosecution showing a clear and concise presentation about what happened. No, you can't know anything from me. Any of that. All these people did was confuse me. But anyway, that was the defense. They planted that seed of doubt. That guy did a hell of a job. He planted the seed of doubt. I'm doubting me. I thought I knew all this time. I've been taught to believe the cream Cadillac, cream Cadillac, cream Cadillac. And now it's 2 cream Cadillacs. What am I supposed to do with that? I've been had. I've been took, led astray, run amok, bamboozled. I didn't land on cream Cadillac. Cream Cadillac. No. Anyway, that's for 30 years. Next topic. I'm tired of this damn cream Cadillac. Okay. But anyway, like I said, I so rudely interrupted this there. That is what you call planting a seed of doubt, and the defense attorney did a masterful job with that. Great job. I mean, I'm not cheering for Keffe D to get away from this thing if he's not supposed to, but the prosecution really muddied water that they really didn't have to. I mean, what they had is what they had. They really didn't need to do much more than that. Anyway, let's get into Lil Durk. Anybody ready for some Lil Durk? I'm just tired of Keffe D, Keffe, any other letter. What's after D? E. I'm tired of all the Keffes at this point. Let's talk about some Lil Durk, a real case. So Lil Durk in Los Angeles, federal court, and fireworks going on, by the way, there. Actually, let's do it. Let's do it like this. Oh.
But before we do that, I got to set the stage for you, because the moment Jam, you have to understand, when you walk into that courtroom, for Jacob Hester, known as Jam, takes the stand. Now, we're going to go over everything Jam said and what Brian Steele will cross-examine him on. But before we do that, I got to set the stage for you, because the moment Jam, you have to understand, when you walk into that courtroom for a couple of days as a juror, you got the judge, you got top-level feds, you got Drew Findling, Brian Steele. They're presenting all this evidence, testimony. None of it is like crystal clear. It's all different shades of gray. You're trying to figure out things. Then this guy comes in wearing the orange jumpsuit, takes the stand. They say, "How are you, sir?" He nods his head, "What up?" And then he starts admitting to the murder. And he says, "Yeah, I did these crimes that you guys are all here hearing all this evidence on." And it gets real intense. Jam is black and white. The first question they ask him, "What have you pled guilty to?" And Jam didn't exactly know what crimes he had pled guilty to. He was like conspiracy for murder, conspiracy to kidnap resulting in death. It wasn't kidnap, it was stalk. Then he talked about murder, robbery. There was no murder involved. And he never actually mentioned murder for hire. Interesting. So Jam couldn't even really define the crimes that he was trying to plead guilty to, or that he has pled guilty to. What he was able to do quite clearly was point out the defendant when they asked him, "Hey, do you see anybody in the courtroom who you did this murder with and who helped you plan it?" He said, cold, low, dead tone, Durk. Who else? He identified the other defendants. Throughout the rest of his testimony, he would go on to put his head down. He'd just be shaking like this. And when he brought his head up, you could see the look of disbelief in his eye at the reality that was around him. Then he went into the...
This is more gangster snitching on each other. They have that code, and I've been beating that drum for a while, because us squares get all the grief because we snitch. You're a square, you can snitch. It's okay, right? Now they tough, and they live by a code that we don't live by the way. I don't live by it. And snitching to them is like the end all be all. But all we're hearing in these trials is these people snitching or working with the feds or working with this or working with that. That's a whole lot of snitching. I've never worked with anybody. Never had to. Never. I would snitch, never had to snitch. I would snitch. I just never had to. These people don't snitch. All they do is snitch. Go figure. It's weird, right? Crazy.
His testimony started with his childhood and this gang that he was in and the rites of passage, but that stuff we can get into. The key points that I want to talk about is what he said about Durk, including the bounty. The centerpiece of this testimony, no doubt, was Jam testifying that about a month after he got out of prison, he's at this Atlanta studio, and Durk's there and Dee Dee's there, Will, Duty Low, and he said maybe this guy Twin. Now, according to Jam, Durk starts talking about people are trolling Sly Vervon, and Durk basically let everybody in the studio know that if anybody catches Quando or Tim, they're going to be good. Prosecutor's like, "Hey, what do you mean by catch?" Jam, kill. Prosecutor, "What do you mean by good?" Jam, money-wise. Prosecutor's like, "Okay, so that means that they would be rewarded?" And Jam's like, "Yeah, they'd be rewarded." What was the amount that they would be rewarded? Jam does not know, but he did say that when Durk was like, "Hey, somebody got to catch him," another guy said, "Man, that's like half a ticket or $1 million. Who said half a ticket or $1 million? Jam doesn't testify to that. Jam does say that when somebody said half a ticket to $1 million, Durk said, "Man, the person who catches them won't have to worry about nothing. He going to be straight." Was Jam ever paid? Jam has not testified to being paid. That's the only thing they've said about the bounty. Then the other stuff that got into Durk was there's a Sprinter van. On the Sprinter van, this is when they're in Los Angeles and they're traveling around to do this murder. And Dee Dee takes out his phone and he spans it. Allegedly, Jam says Durk was on FaceTime with Dee Dee, and Dee Dee says, pans the phone around to the guys in the Sprinter. "Look, we're the Navy SEALs going on a mission." And where they were on their way to some type of hotel that Duty Low had told them that Quando Rondo is going to be at.
Is that snitching? Is that snitching too? Recording? What you recording for? What are you recording for if y'all supposed to be going to put in some work or do whatever? You need to live stream that before you go do it. Is that cool? That's Is that snitching or no? What's your thoughts, chat? Let's hear it. What y'all call that?
I thought this part was interesting because allegedly what they were told is that there was going to be this weed sale, but the weed dealer's not going to have any money and the weed dealer's just going to rob him. So they'd kill, the weed dealer would rob. What ended up happening? Well, when they got there, it was too hot. The police were there. And I saw a huge weakness there because Okay, so you didn't take the shot. Well, what about the weed dealer who was going to go rob him? Seems like he would have a problem, potential cross topic. So they don't do it that night. They go back to the hotel, and then eventually in the morning, they follow around the Escalade and shoot it up at the gas station. What actually touches Durk there? The only other pieces that got into Durk, based other than what I just said, Jam says, I would travel with Durk, and every city we would go to, Durk would tell Vonnie, give everybody guns. Why? Jam doesn't know why everybody gets guns. But as for Jam, Durk wants security and protection, and Durk knows that Jam is a violent individual who will use the gun. That the only other thing that they ever said about Durk and Jam that gets into this stuff is that one time there was a rapper and Jam saw the rapper with flashy jewelry, and he told Durk, I'm gonna start robbing guys like this who come around us. And Durk's like, yeah, that's the Jam I've been waiting on. So why did Jam open fire and shoot at Quando Rondo outside the Beverly Center? Well, after coming home from jail for 12 years and having already committed multiple murders, he was at an Atlanta studio where Durk said, hey, they're saying slide for Von. Anybody who catches him going to be good. Durk one time told him, that's the Jam I've been waiting on. And the only other part is that he.
So this man did 12 years in prison and gets out, and he shoots somebody because his friend told him to. I just want to summarize that to the nonsense I just heard. This man did 12 years in prison and released because he's been rehabilitated. I'm assuming all of this. Of course, I don't know why they let his ass out. Why would you let somebody out like that? How do you get cleared to get out of prison after you've been in there so long? What do they do to release you? How do they release you? Are we concerned about rehabilitating these people or what? What's the goal? Is there a goal when these young men go to prison? Because even that makes no sense to me. He just sounds like a bigger fool than maybe one would assume. Wait a minute, you already did 12 years in prison, and somebody else can tell you who to shoot, and you shoot them. You need to be back in there, and you need to stay this time. I mean, whether that's true or not, I don't know. If you listen to people like that, then clearly you didn't learn your lesson. That's all they had to do is tell you, okay, let me tell you these years you about to get.
Was on a phone call with Booney, and Booney was on FaceTime, and Durk was allegedly there, and they gave him the order, okay, go and kill Quando. No forensic trail, no link. We're going to have to see if there's like a call or a FaceTime record or somebody to corroborate this concept that Durk gave the order through Booney on a FaceTime call. That would be significant. But we have seen absolutely no evidence and no corroboration of that. Likewise, we haven't seen any evidence or any corroboration of all the other stuff that Jam testified about that kind of had nothing to do with this murder for hire. He went on and on about weekly gang meetings, and he's in the Black Disciples, and there's subsets, and Durk is in it, and you got to follow the rules. And if people disrespect your gang, you go back at them. And if somebody gives an order, you follow the order. But this is not a gang case. When the cross starts, they're going to be like, hey, you've admitted to multiple murders, 3, 4, we've lost count. You're facing life. And the only chance you have for a single day of freedom on this earth is putting this on Durk. You gave 30 plus interviews. Almost all of them are unrecorded. When did this story develop? How did it develop? Where's the corroboration about Booney giving an order while Durk is in FaceTime? Where's the corroboration about this meeting where allegedly Durk said anybody's going to be good? And even if so, is that murder for hire? I think definitionally saying everybody's going to be good, never identifying a monetary amount, never paying the bounty. This guy gets on a flight the same day they tell him he gets some order, he never gets paid, but he murder for hire. The defense is going to have an absolute field day on cross-examination. We will see how OTF Jam's story holds up, and then we'll see if there's any corroboration, and in particular, if the defense can put up witnesses to refute a lot of the stuff he's saying as just pure fantasy and fiction and never happened. Lil Durk, Dave.
So in so many words, I guess this dude is a shooter. He's one of the hitters for the crew. And I guess he was laying people down for years. He was laying them down for years. But he said, this time I'm getting caught. The one time I get caught, this was for hire. So this time was for money. This time it's not on the house. I'm charging now. And he was supposed to get paid. Didn't get paid, but he said he was going to be good. How much? I don't know. You're going to be good though. Man, no way, man. No way. Man, it's a reach. It's a reach. Anyway, so Lil Durk's attorney had an issue. So let's switch gears for a minute.
First day of Jam's testimony, Brian Steele was doing Brian Steele things. He didn't get a chance to cross Jam yet, but he dropped the word that Brian Steele tends to drop. Every prosecutor dreads it: mistrial. Twice in one afternoon, the motion for the mistrial came up. Stay with me. The judge denied the mistrial motion, and that often happens the first time, but he did give a warning to prosecutors that sets the scene going forward. So before the jury walked in the morning, the defense warned the judge out loud on the record that, hey, if one of these cooperating witnesses starts talking about crimes that nobody here is charged with, that's going to be a mistrial. And the judge said, yeah, no gratuitous pot shots. You can't go up there, take the stand, and just start mentioning crimes from years and years and years to get the jury to feel like, oh my God, these are terrible people. Well, later that day, we get OTF Jam on the stand. The jury is sitting there listening. The cooperator, the prosecutor asks Jam, did Durk encourage you to be aggressive? Give us an example. And this is where Jam brings up this issue in Miami. There's a guy hanging around the crew. Turns out he's one of Tory Lane's artists. And Jam says, I'm going to start robbing these goofies. They got all this jewelry. I ain't got no jewelry. And Durk's alleged response, according to Jam, that's what I'm talking about. That's the Jam I've been waiting on. So you're in front of the jury. It's a murder for hire trial where nobody is charged with robbing anyone. Jam has already gone out there and started his testimony saying, oh yeah, I'm pleading guilty to robbery. Here's the rule, plain and simple. If the government wants the jury to hear about other bad stuff that Jam did, like a robbery because Durk told him to, you have to give notice ahead of time in writing so that the defense can be prepared. Ask their client, hey, Durk, did you tell Jam to do a robbery? We need to be prepared to cross him on this. There was no notice given. They spent months and months and months preparing this case, talking about what the testimony was going to be. And this story about, oh, I was in Miami and I told Durk I'm going to rob this dude. And he's like, yeah, I've been waiting on it. That's what I'm talking about. Never came up. So the defense never got to ask a single juror about that in their questioning for setting the jury. It never came up in opening statements. Steele goes up there and he tells the judge, look, and they're bringing in stuff about, oh, Durk is directing a robbery. This case isn't about a robbery. Nobody gave us notice that what we're being charged with is telling Jam to go rob people. This is something that the prosecution knew would inflame the jury, that they wouldn't be allowed to do it, and they did it anyway. The judge said, look, strike the testimony. I'm going to tell the jury, disregard the whole Miami story. These men are on trial for what the charges are, not any type of robbery in Miami. Then he turned to the prosecutors and said, look, you should have told them if you were going to bring up some type of Miami robbery, and this should serve as a warning to you to not do it again. Week one, government's on warning. You can bet Brian Steele is going to be trying to build that up brick by brick. On the first day of Jam's testimony,
as he should. Lil Durk coming home, y'all. No, let me nuts. Well, hey, you know what? That sounds silly to me. That, wait a minute, you have the shooter and your plan is to give the actual shooter, a deal because you really want Durk. Why you really want Durk? Why do you really want Durk? Anybody know why they want Durk? Why they want him? Because he's a bigger name? Why is that valuable? Why is that more valuable in the eyes of the law? Why is a bigger name more valuable in the eyes of the law? Why it can't just be who did it? So my question is that they'll jeopardize losing the case completely because they wanted some big name person. Because that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're jeopardizing completely losing this case because they wanted somebody of more stature. Even though this gentleman already admitted that he shot the guy. Why do you need Durk? Why would you give him a deal to tell you that? And he's telling you that he's the one who shot. He shot the car up. I'm confused. I'm confused. Can anybody make sense of this? Why would they do that? Is that justice? I don't think that's even justice. Why is that? What makes that justice? You know, if you have a loved one, say little Pap, his family or whatever, his loved ones or whatever, I'm sure they want justice. Whoever did it, I'm sure they don't need the biggest name. Whoever did it, I'm sure they want whoever did it. And I don't know what they said publicly, but I would imagine that they want justice for their loved one. That sounds reasonable, right? How would they feel to know that law enforcement is risking losing everything just to get the person that they want? Not the person that they have, not the person who's confessing, yeah, I did it. No. You were hired to do it. I was hired to do it. Like, man, this is silly. This is silly. What was he hired for? He paid him in what? Promises? That's all he got. He gave him an IOU. He paid him in IOUs for that. That's how much IOUs you pay for to pay for a hit these days? Like, hey man, you take care of this, bro. I'm telling you, you're gonna be good. How much is good, man? Big numbers, man. Don't even. Hey, I don't count that high, man. It's up there, bro. That's big, man. You gonna be real good. Does anybody? Can anybody make sense of that, or is it just me? Am I the weirdo? So let's switch this up a little bit. Let's go to I guess it ain't that much of a switch up. We're going back to Chicago. Who knew? Who knew we done that back in Chicago? All right. Well, anyway, back in Chicago. So it appears that Vic Mensa and Chance the Rapper, they're working out their differences, y'all. Come on. All right, peace. Clap it up for peace. Yeah. Oh, let me do it this way. Clap it up for peace. We big on peace. Can I apologize for something real quick before we go any further? Can I? I really don't have anything. I just felt like I felt like I was part of the conversation for a minute. I don't really have anything, but I just felt like if I could maybe apologize just for, did I start late today? If I did, I just want to say I'm sorry. I digress. Hang on. Let's get this. Real talk. Real talk. That is true. But we're not on our time. We're on God's time, you know. And I'm not a lawyer, but I'm also not a preacher, not a pastor. But I grew up in church and I paid attention a little bit, right? So we're on God's time. We're not on our time. So for him to cry about him not getting what he wanted when he wanted it, I mean, that's life. How many of us don't get what we want when we want it? What does that mean? Does that mean Chance the Rapper's a bad guy or he's just a guy? The thing about it is when God got something for you, Chance the Rapper can't stop it. Matter of fact, nobody can. So I think that's the real takeaway from this. I mean, it's great to see two guys talk it out and really squash whatever issues they had, but that's not an issue with each other. That's an issue letting you know that your faith should have been in God in the first place, not in Chance the Rapper. His name is Chance. You took a chance. You took a chance on Chance. Vic, you better take a chance on God moving forward. Man, you better quit playing. Don't play with me. Anyway. Hey, it was good seeing you all. I love doing this. I don't know if it shows, but I really do. Anyway, same time tomorrow. Let's do it again. All right, y'all. Peace. Please share. Please subscribe. Please like. This is the regroup presented by the Clout Report. I am J Cal, and we out.